Good morning, my dear students. Today we are going to take up a discussion on a very interesting topic, and that is what's called as biodiversity. This topic on biodiversity I divide into two lectures. The first one is concept, the second one is conservation. So first, if only you are thorough with the concepts dealing with the biodiversity, then you can very successfully understand why we should conserve the biodiversity. So in our class today, our main concentration will be on the concepts of biodiversity. Now first I am just explaining what a biodiversity is. Biodiversity is the variability or the variation existing in the plants and animals. You see, there are 20,000 species of ants are present in this world, 3 lakhs species of beetles, 28,000 of fishes are there, and 20,000 orchids are there in this world. The rich diversity of living organisms with which they share this planet never ceases to astonish and fascinate us. So, just it is an example. What I have given here is just an example. If you just see the number of insects, number of angiosperms, number of fungi, then it is so enormous. So, this is what is called as a biodiversity. So, you don't have only one organism in this world. The number of organisms present in this world is so varied that it is so enormous in nature. This diagram gives you a very beautiful estimate of the different organisms existing in this world. So I will start here. There are nearly 2,48,000 higher plants are there. And then 69,000 fungi are there, 69,000 fungi. Algae, it is only roughly 27,000. See the insects number, it is 7,51,000 of insects are there in this world. Protozoa approximately 31,000. Viruses 1,000. See? You may be knowing about 10 or 15 viruses which are very, causing different dreadful diseases in the man. But you see, there are thousands of viruses are there. They may not be causing that much serious diseases. So, we may not be aware of so many number of viruses. But they are there in the nature. And other animals, it comes to nearly 2,81,000. See, Monera, bacteria and other similar forms, that number goes to 4,800. All organisms, total number of species, it is 14 lakhs 13,000. 14 lakhs and 13,000 species, organisms are there, total number of species that we have identified and labeled. So this is the global biodiversity estimate, a rough estimate. Now in my slides that are going to follow, you will see that this estimate is very rough and it is very difficult to give a correct estimate of all the things. It is very, very difficult. Why? What is the difficulty in that I am going to explain after some time. Why are there so many species? Why there should be so many species? Come on, tell me. Did such a great diversity exist throughout the Earth's history, or today only it is a new phenomenon? Was this diversity existing in nature previously? How did this diversification came about? How it came about in nature? How and why is this diversity important to the biosphere? How it is related to the human society? Whether the deterioration of the biodiversity will result in the deterioration of the human beings? Would it function any differently in the diversity was so much less? How do humans benefit from this diversity, or how much it is harmful to them when there is no diversity? These are all some of the very, very, very interesting questions in the biodiversity. Some of them. Perhaps we may be able to answer in the course of my lecture. See, Robert May places the global species diversity at about 7 million. He says 7 million species may be there. Another estimate approximately 12.5 million. See the difference. Even here it is a 5.5 million. But it could be anything between 5 to 50 million. So the correct estimate could be anything below 5 or and so much of range, because so many organisms we are not able to find. In the very deep sea, so many fishes are there that we are not able to identify. In the deep Amazon forest, there are so many insects, millions of insects are there which we have not even seen. And there are, coming to the microorganisms, so many microorganisms are existing in nature, but identifying them, naming them, labeling them, everything becomes very difficult, particularly different strains of bacteria, different strains of viruses. It's very difficult to identify. So we are not able to give a correct estimate of the living organisms in this world. At least 2 million insect species are waiting to be discovered and named. Maybe 10 million undescribed species in the deep sea alone. So in the deep sea, we are not able to have a correct estimate. In the Amazon forest, the insects have not been yet identified fully. Microorganisms are also posing a big problem to us to identify how many species are there. So these are all some of the problems in understanding or giving a correct estimate of how much of organisms are living there in this world. So that's why I am telling it could be anything between 5 to 50. Biodiversity is the term popularized by sociobiologist Edward Wilson to describe the combined diversity of all levels, at all levels of a biological organization. It is at a genetic level, genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. So three types of diversities are there. So according to him, Edward Wilson, he is giving a combined diversity at all the levels. Okay. First, we are taking up the discussion on the genetic diversity. What's genetic diversity? See, in the plant called Rauwolfia serpentiana, which is living in the Himalayas mostly, many varieties are there, and this variety is a difference at the active principle level, active chemical level. So, amount of reserpine present in this Rauwolfia varies between one plant to another. So, this is what is called as a genetic diversity. So, in the Himalayas, in the Rauwolfia serpentiana growing here may be showing more reserpine, a less reserpine, a different type of reserpine, very less reserpine. Like that, the amount, quality, the therapeutic value, all these things differ from one Rauwolfia plant to the other Rauwolfia plant. So these are all will be coming under what is called as genetic diversity. So a single species might show high diversity at a genetic level over its distributional range. The genetic variation shown by the medicinal plant Rauwolfia omitoria growing in different Himalayan ranges might be in terms of the potency and the concentration of the active chemical reserpine that the plant produces. India has more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 10,000 varieties of mango. So these are all some of the very good examples of genetic diversity. See, beautiful slide. See how many varieties of apples I have presented before you because of the genetic diversity. See how many type of varieties of rices are there. So you got the red rice, black rice, and then you have got so many rice varieties are there. See, these are all genetic variations, okay? Genetic biodiversity. Then I am going to talk about what's called the species diversity. The diversity at the species level. For example, in the Western Ghats, it has got a greater amphibian species diversity more than the Eastern Ghats. So, in India, this is Western Ghats. In Western Ghats, the amphibian diversity is more than the Eastern Ghats. So, this is because of the species diversity. So, the diversity at the species level is called species diversity. The Western Ghats have a greater amphibian species than the Eastern Ghats. Okay. See how many varieties are there? See, beautiful flowers. Flowers are showing different variations. Orchid is an orchid, then sunflower, and then chrysanthemum, dianthus. So different varieties, different diversity we are able to see. Here also, this is species diversity. S is the species number. H takes into account the number of the species and the abundance in each category. Which community is more stable? Which one species is lost? Which can survive in woodland A and woodland B? These are all some of the very interesting questions in biodiversity. Now, we are going to the third type of the diversity. First, I discussed about the genetic diversity. Then I discussed something about the species diversity. Now, I am going to what is called as ecological diversity. Ecological diversity. India is very rich in its biodiversity with its deserts, forest, rainforest, mangroves, coral reefs, wetlands, estuaries, and alpine meadows. It has got greater ecosystem diversity than the Scandinavian country like Norway. So, in the Scandinavia and in Norway, what type of a diversity you are having? Our country, India, has got a richer or more rich biodiversity with relation to these areas, with relation to the deserts, forests, mangroves, coral reefs, estuaries, wetlands, meadows. In all these aspects, our country, our India has got a better diversity, more diversity is there than any other country of the world. Importance of a diversity is divided into alpha diversity, beta diversity, and a gamma diversity. What is an alpha diversity? Alpha diversity is the diversity within a habitat. Within a habitat. So you have got a habitat. You have got an habitat. This is a habitat. And alpha diversity is the diversity within the habitat. Now within this habitat there will be variation. There will be variation. Okay. So within this there will be variation. So the diversity within the particular habitat, the number of species in a specified area, its diversity increases with the increase in total number of individuals enumerated, and thus with the increase in the area sampled. Let's imagine we are going into a forest. You are going into a forest. So within that forest, let us imagine that you are seeing a plant of Hibiscus rosa sinensis, the very common plant known to you at your level, at a +2 level. Nobody can say that I have not seen this plant. See, but the periphery of this forest, you may be seeing one variety of hibiscus, then another variety, in different localities. So within this habitat, within the same habitat there is lot of diversity. In one the leaf may be very small, and in the other the leaf may be very big. In one place the plant itself may be very bushy, and in other place it may be growing as a very big small tree. In one place the leaves may be serrate, and in another place the leaves may not be that much serrate. In one plant the leaves may be coriaceous, in another the leaves may not be coriaceous and it may be very thin. So this type of diversity, this type of variations you come across within a plant and within a local area. So this is what we call as alpha diversity. It is a diversity within a habitat, the number of species in a specified area. Its diversity increases with the increase in the total number of the individuals enumerated, and thus with the increase in the area sampled. When you are sampling, when you are investigating a bigger and bigger area, then the diversity will be more. You will be coming across more and more varieties. So it all depends upon, if you just restrict yourself only to one square mile or 1 kilometer, you may not be able to see that much variation. But if you extend your investigation area to 4 square miles, walk a little more distance, go deep into the forest. As you go more and more distance, you will be able to see more and more variation, more and more diversity. So that's what it is stated. The diversity increases with the increase in the total number of individuals enumerated. It all depends on the total number of individuals that you are enumerating. Beta diversity is the diversity between the habitat. See, I am investigating the type of the plant. Say I will take another very easy example. Vinca rosea. There is a plant called Vinca rosea, belonging to the family of Posinaceae. Vincristine and Vinblastin are being taken, and it is a very good medicine for leukemia, the blood cancer. You must have studied about this. Now let's say I am taking this plant as an example. Now I come across this plant in Tiruvannamalai mountains or that area, and the same plant I am able to see in Tirunelveli, and another plant that I am coming the same plant I come across in another locality, Nagapattinam area. Let us say, imagine, only an hypothetical example. So definitely there will be variation between these two, because the three are in three different places. Tirunelveli, Tiruvannamalai somewhere here, and then Nagapattinam here, and then different places. Since there is a lot of distance is more between one and another, there will be definitely variation. So it is the beta diversity is the difference between the habitats. I go to different habitats, and the difference exhibited is what is called the beta diversity. Beta diversity is represented by the turnover of a species across the space. It depends on how large are the species ranges. Once again, it depends upon the range. Gamma diversity. Diversity in geographically separated regions, mountain tops and islands. These are ecologically similar habitats but have taxonomically different species. Gamma diversity index and endemism is high. See, I take this point. Diversity in geographically separated regions, mountain tops and islands. For example, you come across a particular plant in our mainland. In our mainland, you come across a pepper plant. Then you come across the very same plant in Ceylon. You come across the very same plant in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The same plant you get in India, you get in Ceylon, you get in Andamans, and you get in Nicobars. So in all these 4 places you get, they are all geographically separated regions. Okay, it may be one may be at the mountain base and another may be at the top. There also it is a separate. There may be islands. So when you get to the plant, same plant growing in separate areas which are separated by a very large distance, then that type of a diversity is called as gamma diversity. I hope now it's very clear to you. what's an alpha diversity, what's a beta diversity, and what's a gamma diversity. How many species are there on Earth and how many in India? A beautiful question. A beautiful question. See, how many species are there in India and how many are there in the world? According to IUCN, the total number of plant and animal species described so far is more than 1.5 million. It could be any number from 5 to 15, they say, because this has been already discussed at length just about 5 minutes back. Why we don't have a correct estimate of the number of the plants and animals in the world. So IUCN says that there is a 1.5 million plants and animal species, but we have no clear idea of how many species are yet to be discovered and described. Some extreme estimates range from 20 to 50 million, but a more conservative and scientifically sound estimate made by Robert May places the global species diversity at about 7 million. So, because of this very extensive research, Robert May says that it will be round about 7 million, 7 followed by 6 zeros. This is the number of species, plants. This includes plant, animal, viruses, bacteria, viroids, mycoplasma, genetically different varieties, strains, subspecies, everything put together that may come to this number. This is the biodiversity. So many number of plants and animals are living in this world. Okay. 70% of all the species recorded are animals. See, more animals are there present in the world. 70% is animals. Perhaps the remaining 30% is being shared by the plants, microorganisms, etc. While plants including algae, fungi, bryophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms comprise no more than 22%. Nearly 8% will be the other one, fungi, and then the microorganisms. So plants 70, animals 70%, plants 22%, the rest of the thing will be the 8%. Among animals, insects are the most species-rich taxonomic group, making up more than 70% of the total number of the animals. That means out of every 10 animals on this planet, 7 are insects. Again, how do we explain this enormous diversification of the insects? See, on a rainy day, this is a very common sight. When you just sit in front of the house, particularly on a rainy day, you can see so many insects. Hundreds and hundreds of varieties and types of insects are coming into your house, and then they will be sitting on their walls, some of them sitting on you. So many, I mean, the variation, the diversity is more in the insect that you yourself can experience. So the number of fungi species in the world is more than the combined total number of species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals. Okay? So these are all very minor groups: fishes, amphibians, reptiles and mammals. So the fungi number is more than all these 4 numbers put together. Fungi is also very widely distributed. The beautiful chart, the display, which gives you a very good idea about the biodiversity. See, take the invertebrates first. This is the insects. Oh, see there. 9 by 10, 7 by 10. 7 by 10 is the insect. Mollusks, this much. Crustaceans, other animal groups. So 7 by 10th of the animals is only insects. Go to the vertebrates. Nearly half of that is fishes. Mammals, perhaps in the remaining half, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it will be 10% of the total. This is a 50%. Then birds may be 20%, 15, this may be 15, this may be 15 and this may be 10, like that. So birds 15%, reptiles 15%, amphibians once again ton, mammals a ton, fishes 50%. So there is a rough estimate of different groups of organisms and vertebrates. See, now plants you take fungi. Algae is only very little, not that much. Lichens is very little. Angiosperm, it is more or less equivalent to the number of the fungi. Mosses and ferns, they form the minor group. Mosses and the fern, they form the minor group. So if you just take plants, fungi and angiosperm, they form the bulk of the plant groups. Okay, fine. Biologists are not sure about how many prokaryotic species there could be. The problem is that conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable for identifying microbial species, and many species are simply not culturable under laboratory conditions. So we are not able to, particularly microorganisms, unless or otherwise you culture and they do some experiments on that. Different varieties, different strains, you can't identify. It's very difficult. Okay, so we are not able to do that because we are not able to culture them in the laboratory. If you accept the biochemical or molecular criteria for delimiting the species for this group, then that only will run to millions. That alone will run to millions. So these are all some of the problems in not getting a complete hold on how many species are there on this earth. Although India has only 2.44% of the world's land area, just to see the globe. Have you seen the globe? See the globe? Take the globe and then see. Now the India is very less, you can't point it. It will be very small fragment. A very small fragment is our country. It's only 2.5% of the total world area. See, 2.5% of the world land area it shares of the global species, but the species diversity is 8.1. Very nice. Very good. Very good. See, in 2.4% of the land area, 8.1% of the diversity we are having. That shows the richness of our country. That's what makes our country one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world. Nearly 45,000 species of plants and twice as many of animals. That means 90,000. Nearly 45,000 of species of plants and 90,000 species of animals have been recorded from India. Applying this proportion to India's diversity figures, we estimate that there are probably more than 1 lakh plant species and more than 3 lakh animal species yet to be discovered and described. Very pathetic situation, because the facilities are not available. So many number of species are there in our Indian forest and then Indian oceans that we are not able to identify. So applying this proportion, we have come to the conclusion they have yet to be studied. Nearly 1 lakh and 3 lakh animals we have to yet to describe. So out of this 12 mega diversity in the world, we have got one mega diversity that is accredited to our country. And the highlight of this slide is what I feel myself very proud of my country is, in just 2.4% of the land area, 8.1% of plant and species diversity we are able to accommodate in our country. It really shows the biological research, richness of our country. What is a latitudinal gradients? In general, species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator towards the poles. It's only a general statement. It's only a general statement. You can't take it in its full sense. In general, species diversity decreases as it moves from the equator. So, equator 0. Then 23.5, Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, 23 point, this side and that side, north and the south. Towards the poles, with a very few exceptions, latitudinal ranges of 23.5 north to 23.5. So, within this range, the maximum biodiversity is there. That's what we believe. This got many exceptions. Why it is like that? Then in these areas the climate will be very cold, and here also the North Pole and South Pole, the climate will not be congenial for the animals and the plants to live. So which place is more comfortable to live? It is in and around the equator. See, if you are very much interested in demographic studies, you can also see the population. But it is only in and around that equator maximum number of a population is there. That is the reason why in India we have got this problem, namely the population problem, because it is the place where it is a more comfortable for the people to live. It will not be too hot, it will not be too cold, it will not have too much of rain, and also it will not be too much dry also. So everything is in a via media. You will not be having too much of chillness, you will not have too much of a hot, water will be available in good quantity. So everything is very congenial for in and around the equator. That is why human population is also more. Now this statement holds good for biodiversity. So biodiversity will be more in and around the equatorial regions. Colombia, located near the equator, has nearly 1,400 species of birds. See, Colombia, located near the equator, has 1,400 species of birds, while New York at 41 degrees north has 105 species. That's what I told. 105 species. In Greenland at 71 degrees north, only 56 species are there. As you go north towards, the species is getting decreased. Near the equator it is 1,400. 41 degrees north it is 105. 71 it is 56 species. India, with much of its land area in the tropical latitudes, has more than 1,200 species of birds. Okay, 1,200 species of birds we are having today in our country. 3 to 100 bird species in large area of the Arctic. So in Arctic regions, 3 to 100 bird species are there, and in the tropics 500 to 700 bird species in a small area of tropics. 118 to 236 plant species are there in 0.1 hectare of the tropical rainforest. See, 21 to 41 in temperate forest. Now just to see, in Arctic region it is very less. Arctic region is very less. In tropics, see the number in tropical countries, it is 500 to 700 species are there in a very small area, and in the tropical rainforest it is 118 to 236, whereas in temperate forest it is still very less once again, just like the Arctic regions. See how beautifully it is giving a beautiful picture. See the equator, and then 23 point the latitude and the longitude. Here lies the maximum amount of the biodiversity. See this color is all the tropical rainforest, and then yellow color is semi-deserts. These are all full deserts, completely deserts. So this gives you an idea of the distribution of the different category of forest. Now latitudinal gradient. Now this temperate and polar latitudes, variable climatic favors fewer widespread grade generalized species. See, I was telling you, variable climatic factors in the polar regions, that is the reason for the fewer widespread generalized species. The animals and the plants cannot live there, but in the tropical latitudes, greater solar energy, heat, humidity promote more plant growth and support more organisms stable for them. Stable climate favors the species, specialist species. Together these encourage the greater diversity of the species. So tropical latitudes or tropical forests, they are more suitable for the species. Good. A forest is a tropical region like Ecuador has up to 10 times as many species of vascular plants as a forest of equal area in temperate regions like Midwest of USA. A forest in the tropical region like Ecuador has a 10 times, you see, a tropical region like Ecuador has a 10 times more the number of vascular plants than the Midwest USA. See, this for the tropical region, see how much, 10 times more than a temperate region, for the reasons just now we explained to you. Everything is very convenient, congenial for the plants and animals, including the human being, to live. So it is accommodating more number of species. The largely tropical Amazonian rainforest in South America has the greatest biodiversity on the earth. Amazon forests are really very interesting things to listen. This Amazon forest is it is a home to more than 40,000 species of plants. More than 40,000 species of plants. So 3,000 fishes are there in the Amazon forest. 1,300 birds are there, varieties. 227 mammals are there. 427 amphibians are there. 378 reptiles are there. And more than 125,000 invertebrates are there. See the richness, see the biodiversity, richness in the Amazon forest, which is in one of the tropical forests. Now, we are going to another concept now. Species area relationship. In the wilderness of South American jungles, the great German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt observed that within a region, species richness increased with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. So, the species richness increase with the increase of the explored area. More the area you are exploring, more the species richness you will come across. So the species richness is depending on more on the explored area, but only up to a limit. Then there will be what is called as a repetition. There is a repetition. This we have also experienced when we are going for a plant collection trip in the mountains or in the forest. What happens when we go into the forest? Up to 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, we will be able to see number of new plants. The first 1 hour or 2 hours. After that, what happens? It will be just repeated. For the whole day, you will not come across any new more plant. here and there one or two new plants we will come across. So what we come across in this first 2 to 3 hours, that is the maximum. After that it is going to be just a repetition. So more the area explored, more the richness. But it has got a limit. It is only up to a limit. After that it will be only a repetition. In fact, the relation between the species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa turns out to be rectangular hyperbola. So this taxa includes angiosperm, birds, bats, freshwater fishes, etc. Tillman found that plants with more species showed less year-to-year variation in total biomass. He also showed that in his experiments, increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. Another very beautiful concept. Increased diversity is giving rise to higher productivity. So here I am trying to show a relationship between the diversity and the productivity. Diversity and productivity. More the diversity, more the productivity will be there. Once again, there is a limitation for that. We may not understand completely how species richness contributes to the well-being of an ecosystem, but we know enough to realize that rich biodiversity is not only essential for ecosystem health, but imperative for the very survival of the human race on this planet. A beautiful statement, a beautiful sentence, a beautiful sentence. See, you may not understand completely. We have not understood the nature completely. How we can understand the nature completely? Nobody has understood the nature completely. So we have not understood the nature completely. We don't understand how the species richness is contributing to the well-being of an ecosystem. But one thing is very sure, the species richness is good for the health, ecosystem health, and it is imperative for the very survival of the human race. If there is no species richness, the human race itself will be at a peril. That itself will become a very big question mark. So we don't know how far the species richness is going to benefit the human society or harm the human society. These things are not very clear. But one thing we are very sure, I am sure, one thing is very sure. If the species richness is not there, that will be a very big question mark for the human society. Even the very basic survival will be a question mark. So it is the ecosystem health. It is the ecosystem health which is very good, important for the human survival. The human survival, not human race survival on this planet. How is our quality of life affected if instead of 20,000 we have only 15,000 species of ants on earth? There are no direct answers to such questions, but we can develop a proper perspective through an analogy. So it's a very interesting question in ecology. See, you are asking, sir, in a place instead of 20,000 species, you have got only 15,000. How is it going to affect? How is it going to affect the human society? No, I can't answer your question. I can't answer your question satisfactorily. If instead of 20,000, if only you are going to have 15,000, how much you will be affected or how much you will be benefited, I can't answer. But one thing is very sure. You just read carefully what will happen. Beautiful. In an aeroplane, which is compared to the ecosystem, all parts are joined together using thousands of rivets. See, this rivet is equivalent to the species. If every passenger traveling is starting or he starts popping up a rivet and it takes it home, causing a species to become extinct, it may not affect the flight safety initially. Initially there won't be any problem. If every passenger is stealing a rivet and then he is taking it home, of course that will not be a problem to start with. But what happens afterwards? But as more and more rivets are removed from the plane, the plane becomes dangerously weak over a period of time. Furthermore, which rivet is removed may also be critical. Loss of rivets on the wings, a key species that drive major ecosystem functions, is obviously a more serious threat to the flight safety than loss of a few rivets on the seats of the windows inside the plane. Beautiful analogy. Beautiful analogy. Here the plane is compared to the ecosystem and the rivets are compared to the species. If you are removing one or two rivets now and then, it's not going to affect the plane safety. But if it is going beyond a limit, then definitely it's going to be a dangerous one. Not only the number of the rivets, remember, it also type of the rivets. If you are going to remove the rivets from the wings, what will happen? If you are going to remove the key species, what will happen? Ask that question yourself. Put that question to yourself. If you are going to remove the key species from an ecosystem, the number may be less, but still it will have an effect. So the number of the rivets removed from a plane is not that much a problem unless or otherwise more numbers are removed. But at the same time, what type of rivet you are removing, that is more important. If a key species are going to be removed from an ecosystem, definitely it will weaken the ecosystem. Loss of biodiversity. The colonization of tropical Pacific islands by humans is said to have led to the extinction of more than 2,000 species of the native birds. You see, the colonization, now the human being. I can blame only the human society, not anybody else for anything, for any damage done to the this biome, any damage done to the earth, any damage done to the plant, animal. I can blame only a human. See, after he went to the after he colonized this particular island, 2,000 species he has eaten. Over. All over. 2,000 species of native birds are over because of the human colonization. The IUCN Red List documents the extinction of 784 species, including 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates and 87 plant species in the last 500 years. Loss of biodiversity, the reasons are, some examples of recent extinctions include dodo from Mauritius Island, quagga from Africa, thylacine from Australia, Steller's sea cow from Russia, and 3 species of Bali, Javan, Caspian, of tigers. The last 20 years alone have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. The last 20 years have experienced the disappearance of 27 species. Careful analysis of records shows that extinctions across the taxa are not random. Some groups like amphibians appear to be more vulnerable to extinction. So perhaps after about 1 million of years, we don't know whether the earth itself will exist till the time. There won't be any amphibians on this planet, I think. So these are all our contribution. I can say only our contribution. We have contributed to the disappearance and the extinction of all these things, birds, animals, plants. All these things have become extinct because of the human inhabitation on this land. More than 15,500 species in worldwide are facing the threat of extinction. Presently, 12% of all the bird species, 23% of the mammals, 32% of all the amphibians, see amphibian rate here also more, 31% of all gymnosperm species in the world face the threat of extinction. From a study of the history of life on Earth, through fossil records, we learned that a large-scale loss of a species like the one we are currently witnessing have also happened earlier, even before human appears on the scene. Even before we came, plants and animals have existed on this earth, and then they have existed, they have flourished, and then they have disappeared, of course. They have disappeared. During the long period of more than 3 billion years, Since the origin of a diversification of life on Earth, there were 5 episodes of mass extinction of the species. If there is going to be a 6th episode of extinction, what will be the condition? I just explained to you. How the 6th extinction presently in progress are different from the previous episodes. The difference is in the rate. The current species extinction rates are estimated to be 100 to 1000 times faster than the pre-human times, and our activities are responsible for the faster rate. You see, during the pre-human times then there was also extinction. As I was telling you, plants and animals came to this earth, they lived, they flourished, and then they got extincted. This is happening. But after the human race came, this extinction rate, they extincted very fast. Very fast means what? 100 to 1000 times faster than the original rate. See, it's all because of the human activities. It's all because of the human activities. What is that word? Yes. Pre-human times it was not that much. Ecologists warn that if the present trend continues, nearly half of all the species on the earth will be wiped off in the next 100 years. Good. That's our contribution to this earth. That's going to be our contribution. Causes of biodiversity losses: habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, alien species invasions, and coexisting extinctions. So these are all some of the causes for the biodiversity loss. Why a biodiversity is getting vanished? So these are all some of the reasons. First one, habitat loss and fragmentation. This is the most important cause driving animals and plants to extinction. This is the habitat loss. This is the first reason. The most dramatic examples of a habitat loss come from the tropical rainforest. Once covering more than 14% of the Earth's land surface, these rainforests now cover no more than 6%. Oh, it's really paining. It's really paining me. See, what was a 14% of the Earth's surface? Now it's only 6%. So much of extinction have been removed. By the time I finish this lecture, 1000 more hectares of rainforest would have been lost. Is this data not paining you? Is this data not paining you? Just within 1 hour, that's the duration of my lecture, 1000 hectares of rainforest are being cleared by the human society. It's really paining. Overexploitation. Humans have always dependent on nature for good shelter. See my words. See, there is a difference between need and greed. Man has become greed nowadays. Need is over. No more need is there. We are all very comfortable living in a very sophisticated way. But man has become more greedy nowadays. It leads to overexploitation of natural resources. Many species extinctions in the last 500 years, stellar seeker, passenger pigeon, etc., were due to the overexploitation of the human. See, you have exploited these birds, you have exploited these animals because of your greediness. Presently, many marine fish populations around the world are over-harvested. See, endangering the continued existence of some commercially important species. Alien species invasions. You must be familiar with the environmental damage caused by and threat posed to our native species by invasive weed species like Parthenium and Lantana and Eichhornia. The recent illegal introduction of the African catfish, that is a Clarias garcipianus, for aquaculture for aquaculture purposes is posing a threat to the indigenous catfishes. See, when an alien species is introduced in a society with some other idea, it is becoming a problem to the native plants. Finally, now I come to mostly the end of this lecture. The extinctions of one plant and another plant is also one of the reasons for the removal of the other organisms from the scene. When a species becomes extinct, the plant and animal species associated with it is also automatically getting extincted. For example, when a host fish species is getting extinct, all the parasites related to that, they are also getting extinction. Another example is the case of a co-evolved plant pollinator mutation, mutualization or mutualism, where extinction of one of the invariably leads to the extinction of the other. So here one is depending on other. If one is getting extincted, automatically the other one will also get extincted. A beautiful lecture which was which makes you to think about the nature. It's a high time you think about the nature. See, our country is very rich in the plants and animal wealth. We may be poor in our economy, we may be poor in our commerce, but we are proud to say that we are very rich in our plant and animal wealth, and it is in our hands whether we should make it a better India or we have to make it a worse India. It is in the hands of the people like you, the younger generation. We are handing over a very good planet to you. Planet to you. It is up to you to take it to a better position. Thank you for listening to me, my dear children. Thank you.